All right. Let me do a video about the right to vote and link it up with the right to freedom of association, and also link it with property rights. All right, because like I said, the reason for this post is to treat the Constitution of South Africa as a living document. Let's go. The history of franchise, as I know it in South Africa, was that in the 1800s, in the four Republic of South Africa, you only had one republic that offered or vested African blacks with voting rights, and that was the Cape Colony. But there was a requirement to it, so not every black person had a right to vote. Only black people who owned property valued at a certain pounds could vote. Were placed on the voters' roll. So, due to blowback from white conservatives, there was pressure on, or there was lobbying of the Parliament of the Cape of Good Hope, or the Cape Colony, to cancel, to revoke the blacks' voting rights. So how that was achieved was that land owned by black people was converted to communal land, stripping it of its urban status and therefore stripping it of its value. So now all blacks, black Africans in South Africa, had no right to vote. Very important for the purpose of this program. So now, with the advent of the new democracy, voting rights were extended to black people for the first time in South African history, and that cut across, all sectors, except that there was a qualification, which was age restriction of 18 years. Mandela had wanted the age to be brought down to 16, but he was vetoed by his comrades, and the franchise was settled at 18 years. So when the black Africans voted with everybody else in the inaugural general elections in South Africa in '94, like I'm saying, the only qualification was that you had to be of a certain age and be a South African citizen. So, me linking the right to vote to property rights is that we need to restore property ownership of black people, and we need to make sure that we as black Africans, we own land in South Africa. All right, and then, because at the moment the requirements of voting, I stand to be corrected, but at a municipal level, municipal elections, you need to provide IEC with proof of residence for you to register to vote. So I'm saying that to restore the rights of property rights of black people, the youth needs to look at of conversion of communal rights to urban land. You realize that there's no white person in South Africa who lives in communal land that is occupied by black people. From the poorest of the poor white people, they live in land that is surveyed, and zoned as urban, like the plots that white people live in the outskirts. They've got title deeds, and then a plot. Let's say 10 square meters. Its value at the moment is about 900,000. So I'm calling upon the youth that the next general election, you need to be organized, to club together, and vote as a bloc. And you need to prioritize, the conversions of communal land, to urban land, especially in rural areas, like places like Bo Hammanskraal, Bo Ramotse, Marogolong, Maubane, Makapan, Majaneng, Lepengville, those areas, the communal land. If a push can be made, for that a law needs to be passed to make sure that any land that is allocated to a black person must be urban land with a title deed. We will then have a stake in property ownership in South Africa. So I'm calling upon the black youth, to really consider this. And also I need to point out to the youth that those that will be voting for the first time in next year's general election, to say that the way the system works is that there's a process that happens before the election and a process that happens after the election. So the most important thing is that you need to organize yourself in your communities as a youth movement. Be economic activists. You approach the political party in that would guarantee that if they win, they're going to pass a law that's going to urbanize all land that's occupied by black people in rural areas. All right? And then now, for that to take place, like the conversion, you're going to need to have a company, you're going to need to have an NPO, you're going to have need for service of a land surveyor, you're going to need notaries, conveyancers. Those are the lawyers. So we need to also do a skills audit to find out amongst the youth, those in their 20s and their 30s, like as to who has expertise of land surveying, who has got expertise of notary, doing municipal work, who understands municipal laws, understands notarial bonds and things like that, understand zoning, rezoning, and registration of title deeds. That's what we need to do. All right, I'm out.